I stood in the grand foyer of the manor, the one my grandparents had left to me in their will, watching my sister twirl in her designer gown sample. Her fiancé hovered nearby, nodding like a puppet. Mom and Dad beamed from the sidelines, their eyes sparkling with that familiar favoritism. Then she said it, her voice dripping with entitlement. "Once we host the wedding here, it'll be ours. The $450,000 annual income from the rentals and events, that's our future. You won't mind, right? Family shares everything." That was the hook. The moment that gutted me. She wasn't asking, Show's claiming. My stomach twisted, a raw surge of betrayal hitting like a wave. But I didn't react. Not yet. But let's rewind. I need to take you back to where it all started. Because this betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was built on decades of quiet erosion, like water wearing down stone over years, carving deep grooves that no one else seemed to notice. I was born second, 3 years after Emily, into a family where fairness was a myth whispered in fairy tales but never practiced at home. From the earliest days, I remember the imbalance. Subtle at first, then glaring as the sun. Emily was the golden child, the one with the effortless charm. The big blue eyes that could melt our parents' resolve in seconds. Me, I was Alina, the responsible one. The girl who had to earn every scrap of attention, every pat on the back, while Emily simply existed and received. Picture this. I'm 3, toddling around the living room in our modest suburban house, stacking blocks into a wobbly tower. Emily's 6, dashes by, knocking it over with a careless swing of her arm. Blocks scatter like confetti. She giggles, unfazed. I start to cry, my little creation destroyed. Mom sweeps in, not to console me, but to hug Emily. "Oh, honey, accidents happen. Alina, pick up your toys." Dad, from his armchair, chuckles. Emily's just full of energy. No apology required from her. That day, I learned to rebuild quietly. It was the first brick in a wall of resilience I'd construct over the years. The pain was small then, a pinch, but it lingered, teaching me that my efforts were secondary. By age 5, the patterns solidified. I'm at the kitchen table with my crayons, drawing a family portrait stick figures with smiling faces, the house behind us. Emily, 8, reaches for her glass of milk too quickly, tipping it over. The white liquid spreads across the table, soaking my paper, blurring the colors into a muddy mess. She bursts into dramatic tears, clutching her hands to her chest. Mom rushes in from the laundry room, scooping Emily up like a fragile doll. "Oh, sweetie, it's okay. Don't cry." She rocks her, murmuring comforts. Dad appears, handing Emily a cookie from the jar. "There, that'll make it better." My drawing? Ruined, forgotten on the table as the milk drips to the floor. "Alina, why weren't you watching her?" Mom asks, glancing my way with mild reproach. I bite my lip, wipe the table silently. No cookie for me. That incident replayed in my mind for years, a quiet reflection on how blame shifted to the steady one. While the golden child was absolved, small things, but they stacked up like unpaid debts. Birthdays were battlegrounds of inequality. Emily's 7th birthday, a princess-themed party in the backyard, complete with a rented bounce house, face painting, and a cake towering 3 tiers high, adorned with edible pearls. Friends from school squealed in delight. I watched from the sidelines, helping serve punch. My 4th birthday, a simple cake at home, no guests. "We can't afford 2 big parties," Dad explained. But they always could for her. Another year, Emily got the new bike for her birthday, shiny red, with streamers on the handles. I got her hand-me-down, wheels wobbly, chains rusty from neglect. "Alina can fix it," Dad would say, patting my head. "She's so handy." And I did. Spending afternoons in the garage with tools I barely understood, grease under my nails. Complaining wasn't my style. I learned early that actions spoke louder than words. That fixing things myself was the path to survival. Kindergarten brought new layers. I loved school, the structure, the praise from teachers for my neat handwriting and quick grasp of letters. But at home, it meant nothing. Emily started 1st grade that year, and her minor achievements lit up the house. She colored a picture of a flower, framed on the fridge. I brought home a gold star for reading ahead of the class. A nod, then tucked away. One winter day, I built a snowman alone in the yard, rolling balls bigger than me, adding a carrot nose. Emily saw it, decided to help, and pushed it over in a fit of play. Laughter from her, tears from me. Parents' response: "Share better next time, Alina." The ache grew, a dull throb, reminding me I was the afterthought. Elementary school deepened the favoritism, turning it into a chasm. Emily struggled with reading in 2nd grade, her letters jumbling on the page. Mom hired a private tutor immediately, paid for with money from Dad's overtime shifts at the factory. Sessions twice a week in the living room with snacks provided. I, in kindergarten, excelled in math, counting to 100 before anyone else, solving simple additions with ease. At age 9, I won a regional math competition, standing on a stage with a medal around my neck, heart swelling with pride. My prizes certificate handed to me by the principal. No celebration dinner, no proud announcements to relatives. But when Emily, at 12, finally read a full chapter book aloud without stumbling, when I'd done years earlier, the house erupted in applause. Our little star. Vaidku, hugging her tight. Dad took us out for ice cream that night. I remember sitting in my room afterward, staring at my trophy on the dusty shelf, feeling a quiet ache. It wasn't jealousy, exactly. It was the dawning realization that love in our family came with conditions, and I was always the one meeting them without reward. Long nights followed, where I'd lie awake, reflecting on how my accomplishments faded into the background, while hers were spotlit. Holidays amplified the disparity. Christmases were spectacles of excess for Emily. Her pile of gifts towered under the tree, dolls, dresses, toys that lit up and sang. Mine was practical books, socks, a sweater or two. One year, at 12, I asked for a telescope, dreaming of stargazing from the backyard. Instead, I unwrapped a pair of wool socks. Emily got a puppy, a fluffy golden retriever pup she named Sparkles. She needs companionship, Mom said as Emily squealed. But who walked that dog every morning before school? Me. Who fed it, trained it to sit and stay? Me when Sparkles bonded with me, following me around the house. Emily lost interest after a week. It became our dog, meaning mine to care for, mine to clean up after. Thanksgiving dinners, Emily's favorite dishes front and center, even if I disliked them. Easter egg hunts, she got the golden egg with cash inside, year after year. Luck favors the bold, Dad would wink. But it wasn't luck. It was favoritism. Plain and scripted. Family vacations were no escape. Our one big trip a year to the lake cabin rented for a week. Emily got the window seat in the car, the best bed by the window overlooking the water. If we fished, her catch was celebrated, even if tiny. Good effort. One summer, at 10, I swam across the lake for the first time, a milestone of endurance. Parents clapped briefly, then turned to Emily's sand. When she got sunburned from ignoring sunscreen, the day revolved around her comfortized packs, lotions, stories read aloud. My scraped knee from hiking, bandaged myself. These moments built a reservoir of quiet pain. Reflections in solitude where I journal late at night, wondering why my efforts never measured up. Middle school introduced social dynamics. Emily, in high school by then, joined cheerleading, and our weekends warped around her schedule. Practices, games, travel to competitions, gas money drained, uniforms bought new each season. I, at 11, joined the math club, winning state awards. Recognition, a pat on the back. But Emily's pep rallies, family outings. I worked my first job at 14, babysitting neighbors' kids to save for school supplies. Elena's so responsible, Mom praised. But it masked the truth. No allowance for me. While Emily got weekly pocket money for essentials, when she crashed her bike at 15, ruining it beyond repair, a new one appeared the next day. My bike, hand-me-down and creaky, stayed that way. High school cranked the volume. Emily's cheerleading dominated. Friday nights at stadiums, cheering her on under lights. I studied late, acing AP classes in calculus and history. At 16, I flipped burgers after school, grease staining my uniform, saving every penny for college. Alina is so independent, Mom would say, like it was a compliment. But independence was code for, we don't need to help you. Emily wrecked Dad's car at 17, joyriding with friends after a party. Consequences, grounded for a week, then a used car bought to build responsibility. My first car at 18, a clunker I purchased with my savings. Breaking down twice on the drive home. No bailouts, no sympathy. I fixed it, drove it, graduated valedictorian. Their attendance at my speech, half-hearted eyes on watches for Emily's prom prep. Prom night itself, Emily's junior year. A gown, custom-fitted, limo rented, photos galore. My senior prom, I sewed my own dress from thrift fabric, went with friends in a borrowed car. You don't need all that fuss, Dad said, the emotional toll mounted nights crying into pillows, reflecting on the unfairness, but channeling it into drive. Power from perseverance. College shattered illusions further. I got into a state university on a partial scholarship, majoring in business administration. Dorms, classes in economics and management, late nights in the library poring over case studies. Emily enrolled in community college, flunked out after one semester of partying, skipping lectures for frat houses. Instead of tough love, parents funded her gap year in Europe. 6 months backpacking through Paris, Rome, Amsterdam. She needs space to find herself, Dad explained over dinner as I ate ramen to stretch my budget. I juggled 2 jobs, waitressing and tutoring plus a full load interning at a real estate firm summers. Graduated summa cum laude at 22. Cap and gown moment of triumph. They arrived late to the ceremony, flushed from Emily's welcome home brunch at the airport. We couldn't miss her stories, Mom whispered, hugging me briefly. That hurt. Sharp twist in my chest, but I smiled through it, diploma in hand. Power came from perseverance, not pleas. Reflections in my tiny apartment that night. Why was my hard work invisible? Post-college, I climbed the corporate ladder in real estate management, starting as an assistant property manager, handling leases and maintenance for apartment complexes. By 23, promoted to coordinator, overseeing renovations, grit-fueled meal-long hours, certifications in property law and finance. At 25, I managed a portfolio of commercial spaces, earning 6 figures, buying my first condo outright. Emily bounced between boyfriends and boutique job sales. Clerk, barista, aspiring and always landing soft, thanks to parental cushions. Rent paid when she fell short. Credit cards co-signed. When she got engaged to Mark at 20, ADA marketing exec with a flashy smile, the family ignited. Our baby girl's big day, they'd exclaim at every gathering. I was 31 then, single by choice, focused on expanding my career into luxury estates. No one asked about my promotions, my deals closing million-dollar properties. It was assumed I had it together. No need for fanfare. Our grandparents, Poppy and Nana, were my quiet anchors. They lived in the countryside, tending Willowbrook Manor, sprawling estate on 20 acres of rolling hills, dotted with guest cottages, manicured gardens bursting with roses and lavender, and a grand ballroom with crystal chandeliers that hosted weddings, corporate retreats, and galas. Built in the 1920s, it generated about $450,000 yearly in rental income, a legacy they'd nurtured from a rundown farmhouse into a gem. Poppy, a shrewd businessman, taught me chess and budgeting during summer visits. You've got the mind for it, Elena, he'd say, while Emily played dress-up in Nana's attic. Nana baked pies with me, sharing stories of resilience. Strength is silent, she'd whisper. Their favoritism toward me was subtle, a counterbalance to home. When they passed at 90 and 88. Within months of each other, the will reading was a revelation. Gathered in the lawyer's oak-paneled office, air thick with anticipation. Emily inherited jewelry, diamond earrings, pearl necklaces, and a cash sum of $50,000. Parents got stocks worth $200,000. But the Manor left to me. Elena has the head for business. Poppy's recorded message played. She stewarded it well. Validation washed over me, a quiet nod to my efforts. Emily pouted, tears welling dramatically. But I always dreamed of my wedding there. Mom patted her hand, soothing. We'll figure something out. Dad shot me a look, expectant, as if I should offer it up. I said nothing, just nodded politely. Inside, a flicker of relief. Finally, something just for me, untouchable. Of course, that didn't sit well. The drive home was tense, Emily sniffling in the back seat. It's not fair, she muttered. Parents murmured agreements. Over the next months, the chipping began. Subtle at first. Let Emily host a small party there, Mom suggested at brunch. I allowed a birthday gathering for 20 friends. It ballooned $250 with spilled wine staining antique rugs. A broken vase from the 1800s. Damages $2,000. I covered it quietly. Accidents happen, Dad shrugged when I mentioned it. Then requests for loans from the Manor's income. $500 for Emily's engagement photo shoot at a studio. $1,000 for her wardrobe refresh. I gave small amounts at first to keep peace, wiring the money without fanfare. But each time, the asks grew bolder. $5,000 for a planning retreat with bridesmaids. Flashbacks haunted me during those months. Patterns echoed the past. Remember how Emily's costumes, elaborate princess, fairy, always store-bought and glittering. Mine, handmade from scraps, a ghost or witch. One year, at 8, I carved a pumpkin masterpiece, winning a neighborhood contest. Prize, a ribbon. Emily's lopsided one got photos shared with aunts. Adulthood mirrored. I maintained the Manor meticulously, hiring gardeners, updating plumbing, paying taxes on time. They eyed its benefits, never the burdens. By my 32nd birthday, celebrated alone with a takeout dinner, the pressure mounted. Emily's wedding planning was a whirlwind. A lavish affair with 300 guests, imported flowers, fireworks display, a string quartet from the City Symphony. Cost over $150,000 now. Bankrolled by our parents, dipping into retirement savings and not so subtly hinting at the Manor's funds. It's family property. Really? Dad said one Sunday dinner, fork midway to his mouth. Share the wealth. I demurred, changing the subject to whether. But inside, resolve hardened like steel. I wouldn't beg or argue. I'd act. Reflections in my journal that night, the raw pain of decades. But now, a turning point. More adult echoes. When I bought my condo at 25. No housewarming gifts. Emily moved into her first apartment at 26 Barron's, furnished it top to bottom. My promotion to senior manager at 28. A text congrats. Emily's job as a boutique manager. A family toast. The Manor became my sanctuary. Weekends spent walking the grounds. Planning expansions like eco-tours. The betrayal crystallized 6 months before the wedding. I was in Chicago on a business trip, negotiating a high-end lease. When Mom called, voice bubbly. We're prepping the Manor for Emily's big day. It's perfect, the gardens for photos, ballroom for the reception. I paused in my hotel room, coffee cup halting. What do you mean prepping? Turns out, they'd assumed permission. Keys copied from a spare I'd left for emergencies. Emily had booked vendor caterers for lobster and champagne, florists for orchid archescent, gilded invites listing Willowbrook as the venue. Worse, they'd started improvements without consulting me to clear space for a massive dance floor and luxury tents. They'd hired contractors to fell part of the ancient oak grove, 5 centuries-old coast live oaks, protected under California's strict environmental laws as heritage trees in a designated site. I canceled meetings, flew back on the red-eye, arriving at dawn, driving up the winding lane, heart sinking at the sight, heavy machinery idling, chainsaws silent now but evidence stark. 5 massive oaks felled, their trunks like fallen giants, stumps raw and bleeding sap like wounds. Branches piled haphazardly, leaves wilting. Emily stood amid the debris, clipboard in hand, directing workers in hard hats. Move that stump over there, it'll be stunning once cleared, she gushed. Hair perfect despite the dust. Mark nodded beside her, phone out, snapping progress pics. Our parents hovered nearby, approving nods, coffee cups in hand. Surprise, Mom called, waving. Dad grinned. We figured you'd be thrilled. I approached calmly, surveying the damage. The grove had been Poppy's pride trees planted by his great-grandfather, home to birds in history, protected by state codes. No removal without permits from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife and local heritage boards. Fines could reach $100,000 per tree, plus jail time for willful violations. Restoration costs in the millions if ecosystems were disrupted. That's when Emily dropped the line, turning to me with a smug smile. Once we host the wedding here, it'll be ours. The $450,000 annual income from the rentals and events, that's our future. You won't mind, right? Family shares everything. My blood ran cold. Shock, rage, raw pain exploding inward. This wasn't just a wedding, it was a calculated takeover. They'd consulted a lawyer shoddy from a strip mall ad, no doubt spinning a twisted tale, by investing in improvements, the clearing, tents, and hosting a major family event. Emily could claim partial ownership via adverse possession, but I knew the law from my real estate days. Adverse possession requires open, notorious, exclusive, hostile possession for at least 5 years in California, plus paying taxes. A one-time event. Laughable, fraudulent, the trees, necessary for the vision, Dad said, shrugging. Mom added, it's for the family, Alina, don't be selfish. Short breaths. Heart pounding. I didn't shout, didn't explain the idiocy of their plan. Smiled faintly, said, interesting. Turned and walked away. Inside, pain bloomed raw, like ripping open old scars from every slighted birthday, every overlooked achievement. All those years of being sidelined, diminished, and now this. Stealing my inheritance under the guise of matrimonial bliss. But emotion wouldn't win this. Action would. Cold resolve settled. I retreated to my office in the Manor, the one with Poppy's old mahogany desk, leather-bound ledgers still on shelves. Door locked, I sat in the dim light, poetic detachment taking hold. The plan formed like a chess strategy, tree law as my queen. Those Oaks Coast live oaks, Quercus agrifolia, protected under the California Oak Woodlands Conservation Act and local ordinances. Cutting without permits. Civil penalties up to $25,000 per tree initially, but for heritage sites, escalated to $100,000 each, plus criminal charges if intent proven. Restoration, mandatory replanting, monitoring for years, costs soaring. If permits were forged, fraud, felony territory. I gathered evidence methodically, photos from my phone, timestamps, angles, showing the felled trees, license plates of contractor trucks. Security cam footage from the Manor system installed last year featuring the chainsaws buzzing at dawn. Workers in Emily's employ, invoices, I called the contractor, posing as a follow-up, got copies emailed. Permits? None filed. I checked online databases quietly. Then, anonymous reports filed online to the California Environmental Protection Agency, the local historical preservation board, the county sheriff for potential fraud. Attachments uploaded, evidence zipped. Thriller tension built in the following weeks. A slow simmer. I said nothing to them, letting preparations hum. Emily posted on Instagram and Facebook, dream venue secured. Transforming family legacy into wedding wonderland. Hashtag family legacy, hashtag wedding goals, hashtag sister love. Likes poured in from cousins, old school friends, our parents' church group. Comments. So excited. Gorgeous spot. Our parents bragged at Bridge Club and Rotary meetings. I worked behind the scenes. Phone calls to officials under aliases. We need concrete proof. An inspector said, I provided more soil samples showing disruption. Expert arborist reports I'd commissioned privately, estimating ecological damage at $300. As the wedding neared, invites out. RSVPs flooding. Dress fittings done, the net tightened. I slept little, adrenaline sharp. 2 weeks before the big day, the raid hit like a storm. Police cruisers and environmental agency vans swarmed the Manor at dawn, lights flashing silent in the mist. I watched from the upstairs window, heart pounding like a drum in a thriller climax. Boots on gravel, voices barking orders. Emily, in pajamas, shrieked from the guest cottage where she'd stayed overnight. What's happening? This is my wedding prep. Mark stammered beside her, phone dropping. Dad blustered from the porch. This is private property. You can't just barge in. Mom clutched her robe, face pale. The lead inspector, a stern woman with a clipboard, held up warrants. Illegal removal of protected heritage trees. 5 counts of violation under California Penal Code Section 384A and Oak. Conservation Act, fines pending assessment. But preliminary. $100,000 per tree, totaling $500,000 minimum. Plus criminal charges for unauthorized clearing on a protected site. They cordoned off the grove with yellow tape, photographers snapping evidence. Contractors' equipment seized, air thick with authority. Tension electric. Chaos ensued. Emily hyperventilated, collapsing into Mark's arms. Parents argued futilely. I descended stairs calmly, offering coffee to officials poised, uninvolved on the surface. Inside, satisfaction cool and detached. The music died. The string quartet canceled hours later, citing legal entanglements after news alerts pinged. Caterers backed out, florists refunded deposits, vendors fled like rats from a sinking ship, invoking force majeure clauses. Social media exploded. Local news outlets picked it up fast. Headlines blaring, lavish wedding dreams felled by tree law violations at historic Manor. Reporters camped outside, cameras flashing. Emily's posts turned to frantic damage control. Misunderstanding, all will be resolved. But comments flooded with shade, karma for entitlement. One viral reply read, who cuts protected trees for a party? Hashtag EcoVail shares hit thousands. Our parents' friends whispered at social gatherings, invitations drying up, humiliation public, visceral. Millie's perfect image shattered. Mark fielding awkward calls from his family. In court. It unraveled like a bad thriller plot. Preliminary hearing in the county courthouse, wood-paneled room packed with onlookers. The contractor, facing his own charges, flipped immediately, testifying that Emily had provided permits he'd suspected were forged, printed on home paper with mismatched seals. She said it was all cleared. He stammered under oath. Evidence mounted. My anonymous tips now public record. Footage played on screens showing the destruction. Fraud charges added, forgery under Penal Code 470, potential prison time. Judge's gavel fell. Fines totaled $750,000, including $150,000 per tree adjusted for willful intent. plus $250,000 restoration mandate, tree planting, mature oaks, 5-year monitoring, our parents' savings, wiped clean, covering bail and initial payments. Emily's wedding, postponed indefinitely. Deposits lost, reputation tarnished in social circles. Mark bailed 2 days later, texting her, too much drama. I can't. Family begged me in tearful calls. Intervene, Alina. Family. But I refused. No explanations. Just a calm, handle it yourselves. Power and silence. The fallout lingered. Emily moved back home. Job offers rescinded after the scandal. Parents sold assets to pay fines, downsizing their house. Whispers followed them. That tree thing. Me, untouched legally, as owner uninvolved. Victory came quietly, dignified. The manor remained mine, income intact, and growing. I expanded to eco-weedings, emphasizing sustainability. Hired expert arborists to replant the grove, sourcing native oaks, turning it into a memorial garden for Poppy and Nana, benches engraved with their names, paths lined with wildflowers. Peace settled over me like a warm blanket after a storm. No more shadows. I glow up now, traveling to Europe on my terms. Exploring Paris cafes. Emily once bragged about dating a kind architect who values my independence. Career soaring. Promoted to director. Managing estates nationwide. Free, radiant, life blooming. If this story resonated, like and subscribe for more tales of betrayal turned triumph. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? Share your own betrayal tales. I'd love to hear them.